You're listening to the Fitzroc podcast, interviews where we explore the shifts and transitions of life. Here are your hosts, Fitzroc and Don Fitzsimmons.
Hi, everybody. Today we have with us Stephanie Post. Most of you are aware that September is Suicide Awareness Month. And unfortunately, Stephanie has experienced this firsthand. And so we wanted to have someone on to give space to this important topic. Stephanie, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Stephanie, what is it that, can you kind of get us started on your story and then we'll go from there.
February 12th of 2016, I lost my 19-year-old daughter to suicide. They found her in the Sigma sorority house in Emporia, Kansas.
Did you see any warning signs, even looking back? What led up to this? Do you know?
I probably missed a lot of the warning signs. And to be completely honest, I probably ignored a lot of the warning signs because some backstory on Erica, she was kind of a hypochondriac. And it's hard to say she cried wolf because honestly she didn't, because she's not here now. But I probably didn't take the steps as soon as I should have. She was on medication for depression. However, after she passed away and they brought me her stuff, she had the full bottle, and I called the pharmacy just because I was curious, and she hadn't picked up a new script in almost a year. She was in a psychiatric hospital that she put herself in June or July, actually. And then when she got out, she was a different person. But looking back now, those are all signs when you act like you're happy and you're really not. She had a lot of issues with her biological father. Her and I were a lot alike in many ways, so we had our issues. But we talked about suicide because just 2 days before she did it, I wouldn't say he was a friend, but somebody that she knew had shot himself in his car in the police station parking lot at one of the colleges that he was attending. And so we sat down and talked about it, and she promised me that she would never do that. But of course, she broke that promise.
And Stephanie, one of the things I hear is so common for parents or friends or siblings or whatever, the tendency to look back and say, oh, if only I'd known, or if I had 20/20 vision. But the truth is you don't have that. And my guess is, if I were to say, did you do the best you could with what you knew at the time? You probably did with what you knew at the time.
Yeah.
But It's so hard for people to forgive themselves for what they did not know. So thank you for sharing that. How has this affected you since then?
Oh, Lord. I'm now on anxiety meds, depression meds. It's pretty much consumed my life. I have panic attacks probably once a week, painful panic attacks where I feel like I'm having a heart attack. When we lived in Olathe, I would go to the cemetery several times a day, take naps out there, eat lunch out there. Everything is about Erica, and I know that's not healthy for the other kids, but I just have trouble wrapping my mind around that I could probably live 40 or 50 more years without her. And it causes anxiety, which I never had before.
I can't even imagine that kind of loss. heart-wrenching.
We also share a birthday, which doesn't help either.
Mm-hmm. And so what would you do out at the cemetery? I mean, I know you said you take naps. Was that helpful, or did it keep you stuck?
I think it kept me stuck, and I'm still stuck. I probably go out there once or twice a week now. Kind of quit telling people that I do that because you have people who say it's not healthy, and you know.
Do you feel like at this point when you go that it's more healthy than it used to be?
I don't know. It still makes me sad.
Stephanie, I can't imagine a time ever when a parent wouldn't be sad about losing a child. I'm not sure that should be the measurement that we use, whether or not it's healthy, you know?
Right.
I mean, how would you ever not be sad?
Right. Well, I'm definitely not the same person I was 4.5 years ago. I just have to learn my new normal and accept my new normal.
My question is like, so you're probably going to speak to somebody that maybe somebody's going to maybe listen that is going through what you've gone through or something similar. What would your advice be to them?
If you have other children, not to forget that they're still living and they still need you no matter how old they are. It's changed my parenting too, and my other girls will tell me, you've got to remember that we're still here, you know. And I have to remember that they're struggling still too. And that's the hard thing, is being there for them when I'm still not, you know, where I need to be, if that makes sense.
At least not where you want to be, it sounds like.
Right.
How did it affect her siblings?
My oldest and her had gotten really, really close. And I talk about Erica every day. Anybody who'll listen to me, I'll talk about her. I will make up an excuse to bring her name up. And Aaliyah will bring her up, but she's more quiet about it, you know, because she doesn't want to be sad. She's 25 now. Kennedy is 19, and she's at Emporia State, actually, in college. And she's in a sorority. It's not the same one Erica was in. Her biggest issue was her 19th birthday, her being the same age as Erica. Her and I can talk more about Erica, and they were really close. And then Riley's 16. She's almost 17. She was only 13 when Erica died. And I don't think she's really come to terms with it. She very rarely talks about her, and every time she does, it's full-on breakdown.
Stephanie, have you or any of your other kids gotten any kind of professional help or anything since this?
Kennedy feels comfortable just talking to her family doctor, and she's on meds too. I have talked to someone, and then I just make excuses to not go. I know it helps, but I don't know why I don't go, honestly.
I'm kind of going off of what Keith asked a minute ago. What if someone came to you and they told you they were thinking about death by suicide? What would you want them to know?
I've actually had people reach out to me because you and I are friends on Facebook, and I post a lot about suicide awareness, and I always make those public. And I just tell them, I'm just honest with them, and they can see the raw emotion. And some, usually they'll come back and say that just talking to me and knowing that somebody is there helps. I would urge them to get help, and if they've already gotten help and are on meds, to continue to talk to that person, because sometimes it takes several different meds or several different dosage to get where you need to be. And I just let them know that they are loved and that they will shatter their parents' hearts if they succeed, and that it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
There obviously, Stephanie, there's nothing that can prepare you for something like this, but maybe it would help us know you a little bit better. If you could give us just a little bit of background on you and who you are and how you got to be where you are today. Yeah.
I was raised by a single father who got custody of me when I was 5 months old. He was actually active duty in the Air Force at the time. My biological mother, I've tried through the years to have a relationship with her. I'm her only child, but she's just not a person I want to be around or want my kids around. When I was 6 years old, my aunt and I, who is 11 months older than me, were outside playing, and my grandparents' house blew up with us standing out front. So I lost my grandparents, 2 aunts, and 2 uncles. My grandma helped my dad raise me up until that point. So that was a pretty devastating loss. I mean, I had a normal childhood, except I didn't have a mother in my life. But my dad did a great job being mom and dad. I graduated from high school, went on to college, dropped out of college, actually went into the Marine Corps, got hurt in basic training, so got sent home. I got pregnant with my oldest when I was almost 21. I was raised, you work for everything you want. That's how I raised my children. I work a lot, especially since Erica's passed. I just try to keep myself busy. I'm in a relationship now with someone I've been with for a little over 8 years.
So, Stephanie, did you have people around you? I don't mean just family, I mean friends or anybody like that who supported you, who helped you through either one of these traumas?
I mean, Lori and I are best friends, and I don't really get close to people. I just tend to, I just really need just my kids, my family, and I don't have a best friend unless you say it's Jeff or Lori. Honestly, I just kind of keep to myself, as outgoing as I am. That's kind of strange to say out, honestly, but I just know with the explosion, I talk a lot to Lori about that, and that helps both of us. With Erica, Jeff and I talk a lot about that. That's my boyfriend. My dad's kind of quiet on both the subjects. He just tells me that Erica wouldn't want me to be sad, but he's had a lot of loss in his life too. And, it's just, I just kind of have to, I guess I don't want to burden other people,
But if there were, because I know you work with people, obviously.
Yeah.
I know because you work a lot of hours. I know that. Is there anything that anybody could do to reach out to you that you think might be helpful?
I don't know. I mean, Lori reaches out to me. Jeff reaches out to me. I mean, I've been at Pizza Shop off and on since high school, so a lot of my regulars have watched me grow up, and they know me, and they're there to listen. But I also notice when I bring Erica up, because it is such, one, how she passed, two, it's a child, people just don't know what to say.
And they get uncomfortable and kind of get quiet, don't they?
Yes. And it's not that I really want them to say anything, just listen.
So Stephanie, you talked a little bit about, you had this traumatic explosion that you lived through. Was that ever a struggle for you, like depression and these other things?
Yeah, a little bit. I really suffered a little. My senior year was hard when people were talking about how their grandparents were coming in town for the graduation and things like that. But I always felt growing up I needed to be there for my aunt who was outside with me. So, and we have such a strong bond within our family. I don't think I struggled like one would think I should have. I mean, it wasn't my parents like it was Lori's parents. She lost both parents at 7. So I don't think her loss was much greater than mine. And I think growing up, I just subconsciously was there for her. Does that make sense?
Sure. You probably didn't feel like you could talk much about what you were feeling because it was so painful for her. You probably didn't want to add to that.
Right.
Which is why I asked you that question about if there was anyone else in your life who you could reach out to or who could reach out to you. And Keith, one of the things, and Stephanie, you didn't say this, but this was an explosion that was set by another family member. And you have to, I'm sorry.
I wouldn't call him a family member. He was, I guess at one time he was, but he was married to my aunt and they were divorced.
Gotcha. And so he comes up for parole every how many years?
10.
Every 10 years. And so you guys kind of have to rally every 10 years to go and testify and share your opinions about whether or not he should be released, which keeps this fresh in your mind.
And that's always hard to, and there's lots of tears when I'm writing what I'm going to say. And then when I get up there, I'm an emotional person anyway. So there's tears, and like you said, it does, and then I watch the pain in like my dad's eyes and my other surviving aunts and uncles. And
well, Stephanie, I obviously hear so much pain in your voice as you tell your story. And I hope that if you've got a good rapport with this counselor, that you'll go back, because I really think that it would help you kind of move on. Not that you, and when I say move on, I don't mean forget about Erica or anything like that. I just mean to be able to integrate her memories into your life in a way that is life-giving instead of like just soul-crushing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
If you could say anything to our audience, what's the most important thing that you would want them to realize?
That your story's not over yet. You have a purpose in life. Whether you see it or not, others see it. You're loved, and it's okay to not be okay. Stigma of suicide, it's getting better, but it's still there. People are so embarrassed to open up about mental health and how they're feeling. And because of that, we have the suicide rate among the young especially is so high, and it doesn't need to be.
Stephanie, were you ever able to, I know nobody's ever able to figure out exact things, but like, were you ever able to figure out the feelings that Erica was going through that led her to the decision she made?
I do know that she was drinking. Erica weighed about 98 pounds, and her blood alcohol level was double the legal limit. In my heart, I feel like alcohol played a huge role. It's how she did it that I can't wrap my heart around, although she hung herself. Even though, now that my eyes are open to suicide, that's a really common way that males and females do it. But like I said, I think alcohol was a major factor. We all know it's a depressant, and she shouldn't have been drinking for a couple reasons, but the main reason is she already suffered from depression. So the alcohol just enhanced that. I just wish she would have called me. One of her friends has reached out to me. She was Facebook messaging back and forth. And then about 2:45 in the morning, Erica stopped responding. So we know that it happens probably real close to that time, because she was responding back and forth with a friend, letting a friend know that she was sad. And Erica actually reached out to her first and said that she noticed that this particular friend was having a bad day, and Erica reached out to her to make her feel better. And then the conversation just pursued from there.
Yeah.
And then Erica stopped talking. She didn't leave a note or anything.
Well, I can't say enough how sorry that I am that this has happened to her and to you and the rest of your family. And I want to thank you so much for sharing your heart today, because I know it was very difficult. Again, thanks for being on here with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just hold your attention for one more moment, I'd like to provide you with the National Hotline for Suicide Prevention. It is 800-273-8255. Stephanie has led us into some very sacred space today. She has shared her emotions in a very authentic and raw way. Please honor her by giving this number a call if you are considering suicide. Again, it is 800-273-8255. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fitzroc Podcast. The music you are hearing is Swim with Wild Musical Instruments by Your My Muse. Copyright 2019 and licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial License. Until next time, have a fantastic life.